Hello. Things are getting really exciting in My Father's Dragon, a short chapter book written by Ruth Stiles Gannett and published by Random House in 1948, now in the public domain. In the last chapter, chapter 8, Elmer made an escape from the gorilla. Let's see what happens in chapter 9. It's entitled, My Father Makes a Bridge. My father walked back and forth along the bank, trying to think of some way to cross the river. He found a high flagpole with a rope going over to the other side. The rope went through a loop at the top of the pole and then down the pole and around a large crank. A sign on the crank said, "To summon dragon, yank the crank. Report disorderly conduct to the gorilla." From what the cat had told my father, he knew that the other end of the rope was tied around the dragon's neck, and he felt sorrier than ever for that poor dragon. No way was he gonna yank the crank. My father knew that if he called to the dragon to come across the river, the gorilla would surely hear him, so he thought about climbing the pole and going across the rope. The pole was very high, and even if he could get to the top without being seen, he'd have to go all the way across, hand over hand. The river was very muddy, and all sorts of unfriendly things might live in it, but my father could think of no other way to get across. He was about to start up the pole when, despite all the noise the monkeys were making, he heard a loud splash behind him. Splash! He looked all around in the water, but it was dusk now, and he couldn't see anything there. "It's me, Crocodile," said a voice to the left. "The water's lovely, and I have such a craving for something sweet. Won't you come in for a swim?" A pale moon came out from behind the clouds, and my father could see where the voice was coming from. The crocodile's head was just peeping out of the water. "Oh, no thank you," said my father. "I never swim after sundown, but I do have something sweet to offer you. Perhaps you'd like a lollipop, and perhaps you have friends, and they might like lollipops too." "Lollipops," said the crocodile. "Why, that is a treat. How about it, boys?" A whole chorus of voices shouted, "Hurrah! Lollipops!" And my father counted as many as 17 crocodiles with their heads just peeping out of the water. "That's fine," said my father as he got out the 24 pink lollipops and the rubber bands. "Good planning, Elmer. I'll stick one here in the bank. Lollipops last longer if you keep them out of the water, you know. Now one of you can have this one." The crocodile who had first spoken swam up and tasted it. "Delicious, mighty delicious," he said. "Now, if you don't mind," said my father, "I'll just walk along your back and fasten another lollipop to the tip of your tail with a rubber band. You don't mind, do you?" "Oh, no, not in the least," said the crocodile. "But you can get your tail out of the water just a bit?" asked my father. "Yes, of course," said the crocodile, and he lifted up his tail. Then my father ran along his back and fastened another lollipop with a rubber band. "Who's next?" said my father, and a second crocodile swam up and began sucking on that lollipop. "Now, you gentlemen can save a lot of time if you just line up across the river," said my father, "and I'll be along to give you each a lollipop." So the crocodiles lined up right across the river with their tails in the air, waiting for my father to fasten on the rest of the lollipops. The tail of the 17th crocodile just reached the other bank. All right, I'll see you again for the last chapter of My Father's Dragon.